Hi, everyone. Welcome. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties, but hopefully you can see and hear me now. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Leah Hadley, and this is Intentional Money Moves Live, where every Tuesday I'm going live noon, and we're going to talk about real money. We're going to talk about real life. We're going to talk about real questions, whatever's on your mind. So if you are just joining, let me know that you're here. Drop a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I always like to see who I'm talking to, who's in the room, right? And here is how this works. This isn't just my show. This is your show too. So I'm going to share some thoughts, some frameworks, some ideas, but I also want to hear your questions. So as we go, if you have questions, if you have comments, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will. Well, assuming I can figure out the technology, I will be sure to respond to them. And even if you're watching the replay, please go ahead and drop stuff into the chat box, and I will be sure to come back and respond. Orlando is represented. Thanks for being here. Fantastic. Anybody else watching live who wants to share where they're at? I would love to see where you are coming in from. Today, we're talking about financial reset, specifically 3 money moves that you can make right now in order to start 2026 off strong. But this is the perfect time to be talking about this because we actually started our 30-day financial reset challenge on Sunday. So we are on day 3 right now. And the energy has just been incredible. So if you are a member of the challenge and you have not joined the Facebook group, I really want to encourage you to join the Facebook group. Hi, Jennifer. Oh, it's so good. Oh, Wilmington, Delaware here too. Another Jen. Fantastic. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here watching live. That's wonderful. So we launched this 30-day reset challenge on Sunday, and it's really been exactly what I hoped for. If you're doing the challenge and you're not in the Facebook group, people are sharing, people are supporting one another. It's really a beautiful energy, and you haven't missed a lot because, like I said, we're only on day 3, and day 1 we were talking about what does financial peace look like to you. We really want to start to create that vision for what that feels like, in your body. What does it mean to you, right? And so we heard everything. Financial peace means knowing that you can handle unexpected expenses, right? If an emergency comes up or just anything unexpected. It means for some people, it's sleeping through the night without having to feel worried about money. It's for a lot of people, quite frankly, money does keep them up at night. That's a common thing that we hear all the time, right? For everybody, financial peace really is personal, right? Your version of financial peace absolutely does not have to look like mine. But you do want to know what you're working toward. So getting clear for yourself on what financial peace looks like can really be very valuable. Yesterday was day 2. Day 2, we we're kind of digging into some of those emotions that come up when you think about money. And this is where it got real for some people, right? People are naming things like anxiety, they're naming shame, they're naming confusion, overwhelm, but also hope, right? Determination, curiosity, wanting to learn more. One woman said, I feel behind, like everybody else has it figured out and I'm just kind of faking it, right? Another said that they were really angry that they weren't taught this stuff growing up and they were feeling frustrated. They're having to catch up now, right? Whatever emotions come up for you when it comes to thinking about money, talking about money, dealing with money, really want to encourage you to name it. Naming it really is powerful because once you can really get clear on some of those things that are coming up for you, then that's when we can really start to address them. So, if you feel comfortable sharing in the comments what's coming up for you, I would love to hear, what comes up for you as far as emotions go when we're talking about money. And today, day 3, we're talking about money stressors. So I asked people to share their top 3 money stressors. So what's keeping you up at night, right? What are the things that you maybe are avoiding thinking about? So I haven't gotten to see all the responses yet since this is just coming in today. But I'm guessing, we're going to see things like debt. We're going to see things like not having enough saved, uncertainty around income, for a lot of folks. Maybe there are people who are supporting family members financially, and that's been a big stress. a lot of people have fear around retirement, so that could be a stress for some folks. And here's why this matters. When you get clear on those stressors, when you name them, they do start to lose some of that power. And you cannot solve a problem that you're not willing to look at, right? And so some of the stressors may be problems that it's time for us to really get clear on how are we going to solve this challenge, right? So if you haven't joined the challenge yet, it is not too late. You can still jump right in. I will put the link in the comments when I'm done with the live show today. Catch up on the first 3 days very easily, and then you are with us for the rest of the month, right? And it's totally free. It's a daily email that comes out with a reflection and action step. It's designed to take you less than 20 minutes a day. And literally, some of them are really just a few minutes. Popping into the Facebook group allows you to share and connect with the other people in the community. But it's also fun because every time somebody engages in that Facebook community, they are actually being entered to win prizes. So we have weekly prizes that we're giving away to encourage that engagement, which is a lot of fun. So let's get into today's content, which is all about 3 moves to make, right, in order to start 2026 off really, really strong. And the first one is to get clear on where you stand. So that's the clarity pillar of the intentional money method. And it really is foundational, right? You do want to know what you're working with. And I mean, really know. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pull together a complete financial picture. So that's going to be every bank account, checking account, savings account, your retirement accounts, 401k, IRAs, Roths, pensions, any investment accounts you may have. Want you to pull up those credit card statements, student loans, like anything with a dollar sign on it, right? Want you to get really clear on what your recurring expenses are. So what's going out every month on autopilot. And I do encourage people, especially with those recurring expenses, to maintain a list, because I think that's where people got a little bit surprised that, oh, I was still subscribed to this and I didn't realize it, right? Now, I do know for people who have been avoiding their finances, it can feel overwhelming, right? And I know some of you are thinking like, Leah, I don't even want to look at this, right? And I get it, but here's the thing. The number is going to be the number, whether you look at it or not, right? The difference is that when you look at it, you can do something about it, right? So the clearer we are, the more we're building this awareness, we can actually take action. That action is so incredibly empowering. And that really does connect directly to what we're doing in the challenge, right? So, when we get clear on what we want financial peace to look like, when we're naming those emotions, when we're getting clear on the stressors, but we don't necessarily know what the actual numbers are, that's when, in all honesty, what I often see is people making things bigger than they are, right? So I'll give you a very simple example, but this comes up in all different ways all the time, where I had a client who just completely avoided looking at her credit card statements. And it was something that was really weighing on her for like 6 months. She was just stressed out. She didn't want to look at her credit card statements. She just kept making the minimum payments and just, I don't know, kind of hoping that it would go away or something. But what she found is when we sat down and we really looked at where her credit card debt was, it was about $18,000. Now, mind you, I know $18,000 is a big number. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's not. But in her mind, she had made it so much bigger. In her mind, she had made it like $40,000 or $50,000. And once she knew the actual number, we were able to make a plan, right? We could break it down and see exactly how long it was going to take to pay off. We went through the whole process that we typically do when we're helping people with debt. Is initially we want to look at how can we lower the interest expense, right? So we want to get out of debt as quickly as possible. We want to make sure that interest expense is as low as it can possibly be, right? So first we did that analysis, got the interest expense down, got the plan in place, and she had that clarity of this is exactly what I need to do, right? And so that fear just completely comes out of it because now she knows exactly what she's working with. So whether you are looking to get out of debt or you are increasing your savings or your retirement, or just trying to figure out where your money goes, every month, just start with that awareness, building that awareness. What is the situation? Let's get very, very clear on where you stand. And I want to say this too. Wherever you are right now is okay. There is zero judgment. I'm going to say that again. Wherever you are right now is okay. There is zero judgment. You are not behind. You are not a failure. You are exactly where you are. And now we're going to move forward from that, right? We just want to get clear on what that starting place is. So I'm going to pause and just see if there's any questions of what I've talked about so far. I just want to look in the chat box real quick. All right. Love that someone said I wasn't taught behind the eight ball and I've spent my adulthood figuring it out on my own, but I feel like I have the opportunity to learn. It's true, right? Most of us weren't. The vast majority of people were not taught. And so a lot of us hold on to the shame that it's not ours, right? It's not our fault. But when we know better, we do better, right? And so now we know this is an area where we want to learn more. We want to take action. A silver lining of divorce had to do this in detail. So now I have clarity on this. And you're right, Jen, you're exactly right. This, when somebody goes through the divorce process, in order to actually work through those settlement negotiations, you have to have clarity around the financial situation. Though I will say, I am amazed at the number of people out there who try to start their negotiations before defining the marital estate. So that's an important piece of the process, right? How do you divide things fairly if you don't know what you're dividing? But you're absolutely right. It is a silver lining of the process, right? All right, move number 2, right? We're going through 3 moves. Move number 2 is to align your money with your values. Now that's the values pillar of the intentional money method. And this is really where things get interesting, right? Because it's not about budgeting. This is not about restriction, right? This is not me telling you what you should or should not spend your money on. It's about intentionality, right? And we had several, we did some fun little icebreakers in the 30-day challenge group. And one of them was, I just lost my train of thought. What was it? Oh, one of them was our money word for the year. You know how sometimes people choose a word for the year, kind of their theme for the year, right? And so we had people look at, okay, for your financial journey, like what would you choose as a word? And there were quite a few people who chose intention or intentionality, right? So here's what I want you to do in order to get clear on this particular piece. Go back and look at your spending from 2025. Okay, now if you keep a budgeting app or something, that's going to obviously be very easy for you to do. But if you don't, look back at your credit card statements, look back at your bank statements, just get a sense of where your money went. And I want you to ask yourself, when you look at where your money went, does it reflect what matters most to me? Does it reflect what matters most to me? That's what I want you to ask. Because here's what happens. A lot of people say family is a top priority, but then find themselves like impulse spending on Amazon, right? Instead of spending on something that is more meaningful. Or people will say health is a priority. You know, those of you who've been following me online, seen that I've really been prioritizing my health quite a bit lately, right? But then when we look at what we're investing in, we might not be investing in things that are supporting our health or our well-being, right? Maybe you say financial security is what is most important to you, but then you're spending every dollar that is coming in instead of saving, right? So I'm not saying any of that to make you feel bad. Just let's be clear about that. But I'm saying it because the gap between our values and our spending, it's information, it's data, right? We just want information. And once you see it, you can decide if you want to do things differently. You can decide if you have made your health a priority this year, what does that actually mean in terms of how you spend your time, how you spend your money, right? One of my clients, we'll call her Sarah, looked at her spending and realized that she spent $4,000 on clothes last year. And she said, Leah, I don't even like half of what's in my closet. I was just shopping because I was stressed. So this year, she's redirecting that money toward travel, because connection and adventure are what she actually values, right? The clothes weren't. Another client realized that she had been spending about $300 a month on conveniences. So like DoorDash and Instacart, things like that. And she says to me, she's like, I'm not even that busy. I just didn't want to plan, right? So she's working on meal planning this month, not to save money, but because cooking actually brings her joy and she just kind of got out of the habit of it. But that's what I mean by alignment, right? It's not about deprivation. It's about making sure that your money is going toward things that actually matter to you, right? And that really does connect back to day one of what we talked about in the 30-day reset challenge. What does financial peace look like for you? Because if financial peace is being able to travel without stress, but you're spending $500 a month on things that you don't really care about, there's a disconnect, right? And remember, information, not judgment, but there's a disconnect there. So your money is not then supporting your version of financial peace. Or let's say if financial peace for you is knowing that your children are taken care of, but maybe you haven't done anything about making sure there's life insurance in place, then maybe your spending is not really aligned with that value. So this is your opportunity to really close the gap, right? Look at where your money went over the last year and ask, is this where I want it to go this year? Ask yourself that question. Is this where I want it to go this year? And here's the beautiful thing. You get to decide. Not up to me, right? There's no right or wrong answer here. If you love your daily Starbucks and it brings you joy, keep it. I know some of you followed me over the summer. I shared that I had gotten in the habit when my mom was really sick and I was spending the days in the hospital with her. On my way to the hospital, I would stop and get a Starbucks latte. And I continued that tradition well after she passed away because it helped me to continue to feel connected to her, right? So I'm not going to judge anybody's coffee habit, right? And I think that for some it may serve a purpose, right? It might bring that joy, and keep it, right? But if you're just doing it out of habit and you would rather have your money going towards something else, then you get to decide to change it, right? You are the one who's in the driver's seat. You're in control. So think about this. What's one area where your spending did not match your values last year? What is one area where your spending did not match your values last year? And do you want to do something differently in 2026? Up to you. But if there's something that you want to share, I'd love to hear from you. If there's something that you want to do differently in 2026, let me know what's resonating here. What are you kind of thinking about? What maybe is coming clear for you? I appreciate everybody's honesty and sharing. I think that's fantastic. And it really helps people to feel like they're not alone when they can see you being honest and vulnerable. So thank you so much for those of you who are sharing. I do appreciate it. The last move number 3 that I want to talk to you about is choosing one priority for Q1. Okay, choose one priority for Q1. This is our action pillar. So when we talk about the intentional money method, this is our action pillar. And this is where people mess up. Because here's what happens. Every January, we get all excited. We're going to make all these goals. We're going to try to do everything once. And then by February, we have found that, we haven't really done anything, right? So I'm going to say this out loud for the people in the back of the room. Pick one thing, one financial priority for the next 90 days. That's it. Not 5, not 10, one thing that you're going to prioritize over the next 90 days. It might be building up your emergency fund to $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever your goal is. Maybe it's paying off one credit card. Maybe it's increasing your 401k contribution by 2%. Maybe it's finally getting that estate plan in place. It might be saving for a trip that you've been talking about the last few years. Whatever it is, that's up to you, but pick one thing that actually matters to you, right? That you actually care about. When you focus on one thing, you can really make some great progress. All right, Jen says she spent too much on food or groceries. I hate cooking and I get stressed out with food. So if any of you are on live or if you're watching the recording and you have some ideas for Jen on ways that you have found to reduce your spending on food or groceries, or like maybe some easy solutions around cooking, one of my friends and coaches, Sandy Glant, actually just came out with a book called Slay Your Way. I was at her book launch party over the weekend, which was so much fun. But what's cool in her book is she actually has recipes in that book that are super simple. They're very healthy. They are easy cleanup. Like she checked all my boxes, like not a lot of ingredients, right? And what was fun at the book launch party is she actually had the caterer make the recipes from the book. So we got to kind of sample some of the foods from the recipes in the book. But I would encourage you to check that book out. It's got a lot of really great ideas. But if there are others who have because this is an area that a lot of people struggle in, quite frankly, is just kind of coming up with an efficient solution around food so it's not such a stress. I'll tell you what, it is definitely something that we've had to work on a lot, a lot over the years. And sometimes we're better about it and sometimes we're not, but it's definitely been a stressor in our house as well. So I definitely get it. I for sure understand where you are coming from. All right. So whether you are paying off debt, whatever your one priority is, right? Maybe you're building that emergency fund, maxing out your 401k, maybe you're saving for a house, side business, right? There's so many different things. But what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to get overwhelmed, right? Because when we get overwhelmed, a lot of times we just freeze and we don't do anything. And that's not where I want you to be, right? I want you to be able to really see progress because that's what builds that momentum, right? And what I don't want to see is that, you're doing like a little bit here and a little bit there, but then you don't really feel like you're making that progress, right? So let's just use the example. I'm going to say for the next 90 days, I am focused on paying off this one credit card. So now there's a specific target, right? You know exactly where any extra money is going. You can track your progress. But in my opinion, the most important thing, you can celebrate the milestones, right? And in 90 days, the card is paid off, done, right? Move on to the next thing, right? We do not have to do it all at once, but that is how we can really build some momentum through those actions that we are taking. Oh, Jen, I love that. I see you said you're going to review your Monarch Money app at the end of each day to be on top of your spending. That's fantastic. And it's one of those things also, and I share this with clients a lot, where when you do it at first, it may be a lot of information, right? We're building that awareness, we're building that clarity, but it's not like most of us are creatures of habit. So it's not something that you have to do over and over again. Once you've built that awareness, then you can kind of get clear on where you want to focus and focus in different, specific one priority at a time areas. But it just becomes a lot easier that way, right? To see the progress that you're making. All right. It's the same thing that we're doing in the challenge right now, right? It's starting with that building awareness. What does financial peace look like for you, right? That's part of building that awareness. What are we stressed about? What are we holding on to? How can we really get clear on what strategy is going to help us best, right? At the end of the month, you're going to have that clear priority or roadmap to make that happen if you are in the challenge. So just know that if you're watching and you're in the challenge and you want some more kind of structure or support in figuring this all out, it will all be part of that. So don't worry about that, right? All right. So we do have a few more minutes left. Let's see. Barb says, my one goal for the next 90 days is to learn how to read and understand the monthly statements. So let's schedule a call and walk through that together because that's really important. I agree. That's really important that you know how to do that and that you feel good that you know how to read your statements. And I want to say that's a really good goal because you're not alone. A lot of people really struggle with reading their investment statements. So that's great. Any other questions before we wrap up? We do have just a few more minutes. Just as a little recap, the things we talked about, the 3 money moves, right? Get clear on where you stand. We want you to know your numbers and face your truth without judgment, right? Move number 2 is to really align your money with your values. Close that gap between what you say matters to you and where your money is actually going. And number 3, to choose one priority, right? One priority for Q1. Focus is going to win. So pick one thing where you're going to make real progress. And like I said before, if you want additional support doing this work, join us in the 30-day challenge. It's free. I'll put a link in the comments in the description below. We're only 3 days in. The momentum is building inside. We're almost at 1,000 registrants. And I would love to get over that hump. So at any rate, next Tuesday, I will be back here going deeper on money and values. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to make spending decisions that actually do feel aligned with who you are. So make sure that you are subscribed and you get the notifications turned on so you know when I'll be going live. And if this was helpful, I hope you'll share it with somebody who may need to hear it. And if you do have questions for next Tuesday, feel free to drop them in the comments here or send them to me. I want to make sure that we are covering things of interest to you, right? So thank you so much for those who watched live today. If you are watching the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the replay. And again, it will be my pleasure to come back and answer any questions that you have. So feel free to drop those into the comments, and I will see you next week.